So, it's been a while. I had been occupied with something else, but now I am planning to come back and finish what I had started. It's been a couple months, and oh boy, so many things have happened. Biden was finally elected and certified after a long chain of fiascos. Don't really care, but what am I gonna do about that? The whole US politics is basically a freak show that enriches the players at the top, but slowly murders the NPCs like you and me. How's COVID been, guys? Yeah, that thing is still happening, and it isn't going anywhere soon. Oh god, please give us some good news. What? PTE has changed their 8-point IELTS equivalent from 79 to 84? Dude, say what? That's almost the old 9. Dude, if Australia hasn't killed off skilled immigration already, this surely has done it. Man, this is all very depressing. And on top of everything, my cat is still stuck in Australia. GG man, I officially declared 2021 to be even worse than 2020 now that we're 2 weeks in. Well, if it is any consolation for you guys, I do like to share a little bit of good news just to instill some hope back into humanity. One of my private students, Charles, has gotten his course back a while back, and guess what? He was aiming for 79s, but he overachieved and got 84s. That deserves a huge congratulations because he'll for sure stay in the immigration queue until his application expires, that is. Unlike myself, whose visa expired and got kicked out. But nevertheless, this is the true testament that my methods work like a charm, especially if you're going after the top echelon of scores to apply for immigration and seek a better life. To be honest, Charles's achievement was partially why I've decided to resume and finish this incomplete project, so I kinda owe him a big thank you. So get set, because I'm back for good, baby! So what are we talking about today? Last time we went through 2 of the listening multiple choice questions and they were so boring, they knocked me out for like a whole quarter. However, we're not even close to finishing all the listening multiple choice questions. The next question type will be select missing words, which is really similar to listening multiple choice choose single answer, but with a slight twist. They're similar in many ways. They typically are short passages, they can talk about pretty much anything, and you pick one option. Hell, you also get 2 to 3 of these bad boys per test. Select missing words is even right after listening multiple choice choose single answer, and my guess would be that once you move on from one to the other, you probably won't even notice the difference. But they are still slightly different. For example, you're not given a specific question to answer after you go through the audio. Instead, you listen to a whole passage. Well, almost a whole passage. You see, the passage you listen to will have the last few words bleeped out, and your job is to find out which of the options is the bunch of words that got bleeped out. I might have given them too much credit for saying that it's a unique question type with some interesting twist. Nah, not really. I mean, you do these questions just like how you would do any other listening question. You listen to the passage and you pick whichever option you think is correct. Of course, there might be a tiny bit of strategy you can use to improve your score by a tiny bit. But unless you're truly struggling with them, I wouldn't fret about it. Let's see, what else is there? No? Really? Dude, how the hell am I supposed to last 10 minutes so that YouTube likes this video? Oh well, I'll give it a try. Before we dive into questions, let's talk about the fundamental skills you need to have for this question type. Firstly, it would be ideal for you to grasp the general idea of what the hell the speaker is talking about. Just like all other questions in PTE, there might be a few scary words or concepts used in the audio, but if you can go around them and just focus on the message, you typically don't really need to know what the word actually means. And this has been demonstrated over and over again. I call this course listening, meaning you focus on the main message and don't give a crap about the details. That's all well and good if you want to focus on comprehension, but for select missing words, you might need the counterpart to course listening, which I call refined listening. So what is refined listening? My definition for it is the skill which you use to do repeat sense. So again, it shouldn't be anything new to you. This is getting the structure of the sentence, and preferably you would also grasp some of the specific words in the sentence as well. This skill comes in handy for select missing words because you are literally looking for the missing half of the last sentence in the passage. If you can remember how the last sentence roughly goes, it will help you a lot. Say you have determined that the last sentence begins with a keyword or phrase, which can be additionally, in conclusion, however, and so on. If you pick up these expressions, you will have a much clearer idea about what needs to show up in the last sentence in relation to the main ideas that came before it. When we get to the questions, I'll ask you to focus on these parts specifically. As the audio begins, you should pay more attention to the actual idea. Then you should gradually shift your focus to how the sentences are constructed, especially at the end. That's pretty much it for the strategy you should consider using in the test. I would suggest spending no more than half a minute after you finish the passage. Anything longer is typically not worth your attention, as if you can actually recite the whole thing. We cool? Let's move on to the first practice question.
As Asian culture becomes more popular in the United States, the ancient Chinese method of creating a harmonious environment, feng shui, is also gaining ground. Feng shui literally means wind and water. Its roots are 5,000 years old. Feng shui seeks to promote prosperity, good health, and general well-being by examining how energy, qi, flows through a particular room, house, building, or garden. Feng shui considers yin, feminine and passive energy, and yang, which is masculine and hot. It also looks at the 5 elements: water, fire, wood, metal, and earth, and the external environment. The points on the compass, with 8 separate directions, north, northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, west, and northwest, are also in.
Now, I gotta say, as a Chinese myself, I have certainly learned something about feng shui from this passage. It's always good to freshen up your knowledge about a pseudoscience. Well, let's quickly talk about what the passage discussed. The speaker gave a general introduction to feng shui, talking about the origin of its name literally meaning wind and water. That is indeed correct. The idea behind this pseudoscience is also true. It promotes better living by studying how energy flows around your property, and you alter that flow by moving furniture around and introducing potted plants that attract mosquitoes. Yes, I've been there before. Do mosquito bites sound like an improvement to your quality of life? Then the speaker moves on to talk about the yin and yang that stemmed from Chinese philosophy. Yes, that's how you pronounce yin and yang properly. If I hear more yin and yang, I will call you out for being insensitive and disrespectful to my culture. Feng shui is mostly BS, but still, be respectful. The speaker continues to talk about the 5 elements, which are not that different from the 4 Western elements, except for some reason we don't have air anywhere in the equation. Apparently, we don't need it. Finally, in the last sentence, the speaker mentions the 8 cardinal and ordinal directions, and she meticulously listed each and every single one of them. If I'm completely honest with you, I thought she was having a stroke when I listened to this passage for the first time. It sounded like she was doing a sanity check on herself. This question is a train wreck on so many different levels. Whatever, let's look at the options. In the last sentence, the speaker said those 8 directions on the compass are also ... This is probably the extent of refined listening you'll ever need to do. There's probably no need for you to ever remember all the words exactly as they were. As a general introduction to the superstition that has plagued my people for thousands of years, I say she wouldn't talk about anything that's irrelevant, so option A is no good. The same can be said about option B. We don't exactly have all the fake knowledge we need to begin tackling problems. What about option C? I'm tempted to pick option C. The whole feng shui shenanigan is very confusing to me, and I truly find it confusing why many people actually believe that. But my opinion isn't something the question asks for, so I'll reserve my contempt and ridicule for another time. Option D seems legit enough. If you consider those 2 things important and those 5 things important, then you might as well consider the other 8 things important too. Option E can be a bit of a trap. In the beginning, the speaker did talk about feng shui being more popular among Westerners, but I don't think the 8 directions are all that exciting by themselves. I'm pretty sure most Americans can't even tell those directions apart.
Russia.
Nope.
So we'll pick option D, and let's get to the next question. Here are the options, and here comes the audio.
Most of the information we have about Atlantis comes from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. He says that Atlantis lay west of the Pillars of Hercules rock formations at the Straits of Gibraltar in the Atlantic Ocean. On this huge island was a great and wonderful empire, where brave, virtuous people lived in a kind of paradise. But this peaceful existence came to an end when the people of Atlantis began to love power more than they loved the gods. They waged war against the rest of the world, but were ultimately defeated by the wise and moral Athenians. Then, some 9,000 years before Plato's own time, or around 9,500 years before the Common Era, earthquakes sunk Atlantis into the sea. There is no proof that Atlantis ever existed. Many people believe that Atlantis was just a legend, told by Plato to praise the values Athenian society held dear. But others believe that the storied island was...
We went from Chinese feng shui to Greek mythology, so I guess we're going BS all the way. The passage talks about the legendary city Atlantis and how it supposedly sank because Atlanteans pissed off the gods. The speaker spent the majority of his time talking about what the myth actually entails, but nearing the end, he said that there's no proof this mythical city ever existed. I mean, if you actually believed the story, you would be shocked to find out that Santa isn't who you think he is. He is a creepy old man that burgles into people's homes to munch on their cookies and leaves presents you probably don't actually want. In a nutshell, not a real thing. Welcome to the boring reality. In the very end, however, the speaker began by saying, but. He led to what some other people might believe in, so whichever option you pick should at least be somewhat contradictory to the myth being not real. That rules out option A. It is technically correct, but you don't want something that's correct, so it is incorrect. You got me? Options B and C both seem sensible, so we'll come back to them after we eliminate the other options. Options D and E are both wrong. There, done. I think you guys can figure out why they are false, so let's look at the meat of this question. Which is correct, B or C? The trick here is the word realistic. It looks a lot like real, and it does indeed share the same root as real. Well, real is the root of realistic. However, it is important to note that they are probably different in terms of meaning. If they're exactly the same, then one would be slowly phased out over time since we don't really need two words that mean the same thing. Obviously, they're different is what I'm trying to say here. But if option C actually had real instead of realistic, I would definitely give it a second thought. When we talk about the meaning, realistic is actually much closer to practical and possible rather than real, so it's not the right term we need here, and option B is the more suitable pick. Let's squeeze in one more, shall we? Here goes.
Initially, when Lewis turned to writing children's books, his publisher and some of his friends tried to dissuade him. They thought it would hurt his reputation as a writer of serious works. Tolkien in particular criticized Lewis' first Narnia book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. He thought that there were too many elements that clashed. A Father Christmas and an evil witch talking to animals and children. Thankfully, Lewis didn't listen to any of them. Following the publication of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in 1950, Lewis quickly wrote 6 more Narnia books, publishing the final one, The Last Battle, in 1956. Although they were not well received at first by critics and reviewers, the books gained in popularity through word of mouth. The Narnia books have since sold more than 100 million copies and are among the
Man, we have moved from superstition to myths and now to fiction writing, just as you think we can't sink any lower. Anyway, this is actually a very famous author. According to the passage, he was the guy behind Narnia. You might not have read the books, but I'm pretty sure you have at least heard of the movies. The author was previously known for writing more serious work, and people were skeptical as he began writing fictional novels for children. His works weren't well received in the beginning, but then reputation spread and his book sold a lot of copies, over 100 million to be exact, and the last sentence goes, and are among the ... So whatever you put in should also be something talking about the success of the novels. Let's look at the options. Option A is complete garbage. If you actually paid attention during the audio, you will definitely remember the name Tolkien. However, this is actually not our dude. The man who wrote the Narnia series is called C.S. Lewis. That Tolkien guy, or J.R.R. Tolkien as he is known for, is the dude who wrote The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. To be honest, there was some bromance going on between the two of them, but I actually never read any of their works apart from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe because in high school I was forced to. Either way, wrong guy, so option A is false. Option B should ring an alarm right after you see the first word. Do you honestly care how big a book is? Like, we're not talking about how many words there are, how thick it is, or anything of the sort, just how big. Along with the fact that it's probably not true, I'm certainly not judging a book by its size. Moving on, we can see that option C is also incorrect. The series didn't pop up right away, but later on it earned people's recognition and made huge sales. And there really isn't anything about publicity in the passage. Option D is complete nonsense as well. Where in the passage did the speaker talk about libraries? That leaves us with option E, which is the correct answer. It fits nicely with the first half of the sentence, which talked about its sales, and then you move on to talk about the books actually being revered by children. I find The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe quite boring, but kids are stupid, so what do they know? That'll be all for today. We looked at select missing words and we discussed some sample questions. The walkthrough will be coming right up, and I'm sure the questions will be even more hilarious than they already are. Please like, subscribe, and share if you find this helpful, and don't hesitate to leave your questions in the comment section down below. Let's not vote as dead people, and I'll see you all next time.